Hello, hello. Welcome to the Women's Business Workshop podcast. This is the final episode in a 3-part series on business visibility. We are focusing today on creating intentional content that gets you the visibility that you're hoping for. If you haven't grabbed this series checklist yet, you can go to womensbusinessworkshop.com/WBW podcast to get on the email list and grab the visibility challenge checklist that goes with the last 3 episodes. In case we haven't met yet, I'm Robin Walker, Small Business Advisor to entrepreneurs and small business owners. I help you structure your business and everyday activities so that you can have a profitable business that fits your lifestyle and your family needs. So I'm going to call this out before we get too deep into this episode. If content creation overwhelms you, and while you're listening to this, you start to feel that, you may be ready for more support than just DIY. I know for many of you, hiring a social media agency right now just is not in your budget. So before you stop the episode out of overwhelm, I want to offer you an in-between option. Because I see this gap so often for entrepreneurs, small business owners, solopreneurs, I created a quarterly content consult. Hard to say, but very impactful. And it's perfect for an owner that creates their own content or has a staff member to do it, but it's just one more thing on your plate. So what is it? We sit down together to come up with your content for the next 90 days or any 90-day period. I bring the framework that we're going to be discussing today, but in an easy-to-use format. You bring your knowledge, goals, offers, and then I help you draw out what your audience needs to know to take action in the 3 stages that we're going to talk about in this episode. It's a lot easier to just show up for this consult than it is to sit down alone with a blank content schedule and rack your brain for new ideas. Ideation and strategy are in my top strengths, and you get to take advantage of that for some fresh content. Right now, it is available as a listener bonus for only $247 per session. So if you want to just cut to the chase and get some support, the link is in the show notes. An episode can only get you so far, and the real traction comes when we work one-on-one together. All right, let's dive into episode 115. So I'm going to start out with what is content. If you're a small business owner, you know what content is. So I'm just going to clarify a little bit for the purposes of this episode what I consider content and what my philosophy is on small business owners' content. My philosophy is that purposeful is better than quantity. The quality and why you're doing it is what really matters. I want you to shift your thinking from content is your strategy to your business plan is the strategy and content is the vehicle. Some of you are skipping the step of having the business plan and jumping right to wanting content to be your strategy and to be the way that you are getting new clients. Content is the vehicle. Business plan is the strategy. Just a quick note that this episode is about content and not about the algorithm, because by the time this episode airs, the algorithm will have changed again, right? Trying to figure out the algorithm. It feels like playing a game where no one tells you the rules and then they change the rules mid-game. For most business owners, it's just impossible to keep up with because you are doing training on your skill set and what you're doing for your clients. We don't have time to also be doing a bunch of research about the algorithm every single week to make sure we're on top of it. That is what a social media agency is for. But even still, that's the part they're going to do. You're going to do the part of your content that is the topics, the goals, how it's going to meet your goals, your expertise. And that's what we're talking about today. So instead of planning by the algorithm, let's control what you can and think about what happens when someone finds your content. Maybe someone gets a referral to you and they decide to look you up. What are they going to find? Someone meets you at an event, and afterwards they check out your Instagram. Someone hears you on a podcast. They start to follow you. Today, instead of thinking about how can I go viral, because let's be honest, most of you couldn't handle the client load if you did end up going viral. But let's talk about what do people experience when they first find me. So it may not be that they find you organically on a platform. They may have, especially for a lot of you, have gotten a referral, or they saw you speaking somewhere, or you held an event that they attended. But usually they're going to go look you up somewhere to see who you are, what you stand for, who you serve, to see if you have any value for them. So where are some of the platforms where they might be finding you that you could have content? This might be if you host your own podcast. Some of you also do podcast interviews, whether locally or on national podcasts. You guys have blog posts on your websites, or you do LinkedIn articles. Some of you do speaking opportunities, or you teach a workshop, or you do a collab type event with another business owner. Many of you have social media. That's probably what you were thinking when you first heard this episode. Some of you might have YouTube channels where you do a longer form video or teaching type videos. Many of you have your Google profile that you optimize and that you try to remember to post on or have details on. That can also be content. And then our lovely email newsletters, the thing that's always nagging you to keep up with. The other space that people forget about that does have content is your website. There's pages on your website. Often that's where someone finds you. So when you think of content, keep an open mind throughout this episode about all the different places that you could be creating very strategic content, not just social media. There's a lot of places where people might find you that we want to be really intentional about what we're putting out there. Next step is, where does your content come from? And the goal is not to say just whatever I'm thinking of at the time. We really want to start training ourselves for intentional content. There's always space for more for those off the cuff, in the moment. I went to this event. I want to share a little something about it afterwards. You're never going to run out of space for new content, but I'm talking about your foundational content and where does that come from? Like I said before, a lot of it is coming from your business plan. And this is looking at your ideal client and pulling content from your ideal client, or looking back to your ideal client to make sure that the content you're creating is aligning with the people you're trying to attract. If you haven't documented your ideal client and you are trying to create content or a website or a Google profile, you're at a disadvantage because you're trying to just talk to like maybe the most recent client you had that was a good fit, or you're thinking of a couple that are a good fit, but you're not truly being strategic and having this come from a place of intentional strategy. Your business plan can also provide the struggles and solutions the struggles of your clients and the solutions you provide. And I'm not talking about, oh, they need a florist and I give them flowers. The work you do on your business plan gets deeper than that. So the struggles of they really need something unique for their mother-in-law. They don't want to just go get flowers somewhere. They really want something that matters, that is more unique. And they want someone who's there to help them because they don't know about flowers or which ones are that their mother-in-law's cat is going to be allergic to. So they need an expert that can help guide them so that those plants don't keep getting thrown away because you don't know which ones to buy her. Those are some struggles that might come up as you're doing a business plan, aside from just people need flowers. You see how it gets a lot deeper. Some of you have done this work, but maybe you haven't remembered to go back and look at it when you're creating content. Because even like in that example, when Mother's Day is coming up, you can pull that from your business plan and have a really easy post ready to go based on that information. The other way that your content should be based on your business plan is to stay aligned with your brand, stay aligned with your goals, your brand elements, not just the ones you can see, but the ones behind the scenes. What do you stand for? What are your beliefs? What are your values of your business? This is why going back to those documented foundational pieces of your business help your content feel more aligned and consistent. It stays together. When you scroll it, it all feels like it goes together. And that doesn't always happen when you're creating content on a whim and you're just opening up Canva and just creating a new graphic because you have something coming up and it's just kind of willy-nilly, or hey, that looks like a really cool template that they have. I'm just going to use that template and use my colors in it. So we want to go back to our foundation. If you don't have something documented yet, even small bits that you can put together in a Google Doc or in a notebook, that helps. A lot of you have worked on some of this in the past, but you've never put it all together. That would be a great step. When we work together, we do a signature business framework. It is specific to entrepreneurs. We work through all the foundations that matter to you, like typical target market, offers, pricing, all that. But then we also go into things that are more specific for entrepreneurs. So that is business owner mindset, your identity blueprint, which is what makes your business unique to you. And it just makes it so much easier to pull out the content right from the work we've done together versus staring at a blank page. Okay, let's discuss what happens when someone comes across your content, whatever platform they find you on. Each person's going to be in a different stage of relationship with you and your brand when they land on your content. Your content just isn't about what to say, it's about who you're saying it to and where they are in the decision process of working with you. Discovery phase, these are your first timers. These are the people that have never heard of you before, and this is the first time they are seeing you or your brand. So if you are at a speaking event and they have never seen you before, that is a discovery piece of content that they're hearing for the very first time. If they are finding you through organic search on social media, that is in the discovery phase, first time they're ever seeing you. This is where the visibility piece comes in that we're talking about. How are we getting seen by these people, and what are they going to see when they find us? It's all about new potential customers in the discovery phase. The next phase is consideration. Maybe they've met you, or they've seen you, or they've had some kind of interaction with you or your brand in the past, but maybe have not paid you money yet. They haven't committed to doing something with you in the past. This type of person, they've been checking you out. Maybe they've been learning from you, and they're considering if you are for them or not. They're deciding if they should need you, or if you could help them, or maybe someone they know you could help. But they're closer to making a decision because they have been educated and nurtured by you throughout some point of time. Lastly is the conversion phase. They are ready to buy and they see your content. What is encouraging them to take action? This is the quote unquote sales part that a lot of you don't like. These are the calls to action, the next steps, the links, the offers. Because this episode is focused on visibility specifically, we're not going to focus on this phase so much. I just wanted to make sure you were clear. In my mind, these are the three very overarching general phases that someone will be in when they encounter your content. So what are we posting? What are we writing about? What are we publishing? I want you to think first about what is the purpose of this piece of content. I don't want you putting out content that doesn't have a purpose, that is just fluff, a space holder, because that might be the very first post that someone sees. Yes, we want spontaneous. I'm not talking about not having behind the scenes spontaneous, but just stop and think before you write an article, post. what is the purpose of this piece of content? And I say this respectfully because so many of you have such a wide volume of talent, knowledge, experience that you could write about a lot of things. You are knowledgeable and you can help people on a whole host of topics. That doesn't mean you should. When you are covering all kinds of things that maybe even on the edge of your content, like they do connect a little bit, but this could really help someone. It becomes confusing for the person who finds you for the first time because they're going to think that's what you talk about and that's who you serve or what problem you solve. So just because you have a big breadth of knowledge does not mean that you need to write articles on all of it, post about all of it, include all of it on your website. And I do find this gets easy to do if you're not doing real intentional content, because maybe something comes up at an event you're at and you think, oh, I want to talk about that. But the lesson, so to speak, of what happened at the networking event goes into this whole big thing that maybe is like a really small problem of your ideal client, but it's not what you solve. Now it gets confusing of how this relates to you. And we want to be clear. We want it to be easy for people to refer us, easy for people to understand what we do. And for some of you, what you do is really nuanced. It's not always easy to articulate. So when you go off script, so to speak, for random pieces of content, it makes it even more difficult. So we want to go back to your business plan where we talked about exactly who you are, how you serve, who you serve, what you're really good at. Then we're going to stay, it's just easier to stay consistent when you're going back to that versus I need to talk about something and this thing happened at a networking event, so I'm just going to talk about it. So that's my 2 cents for all of you really knowledgeable, badass women out there that could talk about a lot of things. Let's focus on what your ideal client really needs to hear about. We want less fluff and unrelated random posts, more intentionality. Let's talk about each phase and what might be something more about like the content itself for each of the phases that someone might find you. So we're going to start with discovery. Again, this is obviously getting seen by new people. And what if it's the first time that they're ever finding you and they come across this LinkedIn article or they come across this post? This phase of content, the discovery, we want to be really conscientious about it attracting our ideal client. This is our beacon that we're putting out so that when they roll up to your LinkedIn article in a Google search, it is for these people. I'm going to give you an example that I see often. It is business owners getting a list of all the national holidays. Maybe not national. Actually, these aren't probably national holidays. Some of these are some really random, like, I guess they say National Cupcake Day or something like that. I guess federal holidays is what I'm thinking of. These are not federal holidays. Maybe they're considered national holidays. I don't know. Maybe you can just make up your own national holiday that goes with your ideal client. But I see people post on like National Cupcake Day. And just because they're low on ideas, they pull from this big list and they try to come up with some kind of post that has to do with National Cupcake Day just for something to post. If you're an accountant and you post a picture of a cupcake and it says Happy Cupcake Day to all who celebrate, if that's the first post I see from you, I'm confused. I don't think you really have any authority in the accounting space. It doesn't make me interested or curious. It just looks like fluff and it makes me want to have a cupcake. So if anything, you're driving traffic to the local bakery. If you must do some kind of post like this, the exception would be let's say bakeries are part of the ideal client for this accounting firm. Let's say that's one of their best clientele, or that's the right size and style of business they're looking for. Then you could do a post for National Cupcake Day that tells bakeries that your firm can calculate how many cupcakes a bakery needs to sell at what rate to make a certain amount of money per month, or something specific to make a bakery say, oh, hey, this accounting firm's for me. I've never done that math, and if they can do it and make me that much per month, that sounds pretty good. They're the right one for me. But if you're not have a real clear connection, then just don't do it. If you need to look at that list, look for one that connects with the problem your client has that you solve. Most of them are not going to relate. But that's what we're trying to avoid, is the fluff. Now, if I was a bakery and I landed on that post talking about how to calculate how many cupcakes a bakery needs, that's going to stop me, and it's going to make me want to read about it and learn more about it. Discovery content could be introduction posts, reintroduction posts. Remember, if you do an introduction post, maybe a small fraction of your audience is even going to see it. Chances are it's the people who engage with you regularly. But let's just say you do an introduction post. Let's redo that at least once a year, if not more often, for the discovery phase, for the people who are new. You could do a reintroduction post. Share about product or service information, content that includes your target market. Revisit your business plan and the struggles and problems your ideal client has. How can you create content around these topics, not to play on fear, but to address them so that they relate to your topics and they see you as the person to help them with it. The people finding us, we want them to know what we do and who we do it for. So if I just scrolled your social media, would I be able to tell who you serve? If I looked at like 3 posts, would I be able to see if I'm someone that you serve? Would I be able to know what it is that you can do for me, how you can help me? Would I be able to tell that if I grabbed 3 random posts? Or if I looked on your blog post, could I tell that from one blog post? How about if you're doing a speaking event? Can I tell that from the title? Test it yourself. Scroll your social media. Go through your podcast episodes. Scroll your website as if you were someone that didn't know anything about you. What would someone assume about you and your brand just based on some snippets of your content? Would they be able to tell what you sell, who buys it, and what position you are in your industry? And by that, I mean, can they tell if you're the value-based business that they're going to expect to be low pricing? Can they tell if you're a luxury? I'll give you an example for discovery content. You're going to host a workshop. You're a service provider. You're going to host a workshop with another business in your town that has a similar clientele. You guys are going to host a workshop together. If the goal is to attract new clients, the topic needs to be based on attracting new clients. They also don't know you, so the event page needs to introduce you, and the title needs to be really clear who it's for. For example, if I did this episode as a workshop, and it was for people who don't follow me, so someone else is going to host this, and it's not my followers, I might have a title like Purposeful Content That Converts for Business Owners. So if someone doesn't know me, they know this is for business owners. It's about purposeful content. It just gives a little more information, but I tell who it's for. It's for business owners. Versus if I had one for my own audience, who I could maybe title it Easier Content with Robin. They know who Robin is. They know it's for business owners because that's my ideal client and that's who follows me. I don't need to have as much information. I always suggest having a really strategic title, of course, but hopefully you can understand what I mean, that when you're doing the title, pretend someone doesn't know you, know who you work with, know what you offer, and create the title for that discovery phase. If I'm going to do a workshop in my own membership group, they already know me. They already know what I do, My title can be different because it's warm. It's my people. They already know. Be conscious of any discovery phase content that is for someone who doesn't know who you are. They don't trust you yet. They don't understand what you do. Going into the consideration phase, this is more about what do people need to know in order to understand what you offer, who it's for, and why they need it. People are using your content now in this phase. People are using your content to make decisions. They've already met you, and now they're trying to decide, who is this person? Who is this lady? What is her business? And why does it matter to me? It's not about you. It's about them. Can I trust them? They may not be asking that out loud, but subconsciously, when you're in a nurture phase with a business, you are trying to figure out if you trust them. A business can do things that erode trust, that make you second guess a decision. You know what can do that? Inconsistency, mixed messages. Sometimes that's what happens with the DIY random posts. So what can you post to help them trust you? Post about your background, your experience, posting reviews, testimonials, being consistent. And I don't mean that means you have to post every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'm sure that's great. I don't know. Ask the algorithm people. Being consistent in your messaging and your offers. When you have 52 different offers and you're changing them all the time, that makes people wonder if you know what you're doing. Post things that will help build trust. Also, what do they need to know about your process, your service, your products? What can you post that helps them learn more about the process of working with you? It doesn't have to be a post that says, this is how we work together. It can be, but you can also post, this is where maybe a behind the scenes, telling a story really help to show about process, or maybe something you change and improve in the process, and you can share about what better results it's getting you. You can also share about your strengths. This is where your unique value proposition in your business plan, that is gold when it comes to this part. To be able to share about how you are different from your competition. That matters. If I'm looking at a bunch of different dentists, and I don't know why that came up in the last couple episodes. I'm not sure why. I don't even have any dental clients right now, so I don't know why that comes up. However, if you're comparing, let's go with physical therapists, because that's more in my realm. You're looking for a new physical therapist. You've been following, let's say 3. You've been following 3 different physical therapists, trying to decide which one might be your right fit. If they're sharing about how they're unique and how they can uniquely serve you, or they're uniquely equipped, experienced, that's going to help you make your decision. Because remember, people are using your content to make decisions. If you have a blog post as a physical therapist about a certain type of procedure you do, or results framework, and I'm reading that, that's going to help me make a decision to see if we're aligned or not. Third one under consideration that you can post about is your thought leadership. I just did an episode about that, the last episode 114. If you haven't listened to that, I'd suggest going back to that one. That's about your unique thoughts on your industry. It's how you're different, but it's more about what you're doing differently. For example, if you are a chiropractor and you are going to not take insurance, it's sharing about how you feel that insurance gives a worse transformation for clients that are suffering with this problem, because you can't offer X, Y, and Z because insurance won't cover it. But X, Y, and Z is what brings the transformation and the healing. So that would be your thought leadership. Not every physical therapist thinks, or chiropractor thinks, that insurance is restricting healing, but you do. So that's part of your thought leadership. I suggest the last episode. Sometimes this is kind of hard to draw out yourself. I know I work with a coach specifically on this and how I'm different in my specific view on coaching, because business coaching, again, is, there's a lot of different variations of it. And how do you know if I'm the right person for you? So in coaching calls or content sessions, there's often things that arise in conversation that then we can craft into a post or article, but you're so deep in your knowledge that it's sometimes hard to step back and see what other people don't know yet, what they don't get about what you do. Fourth one is building the relationship. They kind of need to like you to some degree to hire you, especially if it's a one-on-one service or they're going to be dealing with you for service delivery. So they need to like you. So build the relationship, show your personality. We don't need to see all the crazy back-end stuff that's happening that is going to erode some trust, but be yourself, show your personality. They need to like you. That's part of content. We don't need it all to be so professional that it sounds like anyone could have published this content. Show your personality. An example for the consideration phase would be a website page of frequently asked questions. This is a page that has so much potential that is unmet by a lot of business owners, is the frequently asked questions page. It gives you an opportunity. You get to pick what questions are on this page, let me remind you. They don't have to all be the main questions that people ask because they don't read thoroughly. You can share about your process. You can address potential objections. You can craft this page to educate, to clarify, and again, to build relationship. You can actually write in things that show the personality of your brand, of you as the service provider. It's a great page. If you don't have one yet, I highly suggest having a frequently asked questions page, and be strategic about what questions and answers you're putting on there. If you need help with that, please reach out and we can work on that together. I want to talk about lopsided content results. There could be all kinds of things at play, but take note if you're having mismatched results when it comes to your content. For example, you're getting more than average hits on a blog post, but it's not converting and no one is clicking through or taking the call to action that's throughout the blog post. Or maybe in your social media, you're getting a lot of new followers, but no conversion. You may be focusing on these different phases, either not at all because you're just kind of throwing out content, or maybe you're heavy on one and not the other two, so it's not feeling balanced. For example, if you're only focusing on conversion, then people may feel like you're just selling to them all the time, but they don't really know enough about you or your products to be able to make the decision to buy because it's just the conversion piece. Or if you're only doing the relationship but never doing calls to action, people are just enjoying you, which that's nice, but that's not going to pay your mortgage. Just keep an eye on content results. It could be your pricing, it could be your offers, it could be your mismatched ideal client, it could be all kinds of things, but sometimes it's just as simple as the content we're creating is not balanced enough. All right, let's all take a breath. We've covered a lot. Your brain's probably spinning with ideas or maybe just a little overwhelmed. I'm going to give you 3 questions to help you narrow your next piece of content. If you are driving or in a place where you can't jot these down, that's okay. You can just sign up for our email list, or if you're already on it, I will send these 3 questions in our next email. And remember, you can always have me do this with you for you during a quarterly content consult. I think I should have come up with a name that was a little easier for me to say, but I think you get it. So that we're going to do it together, and you don't have to write anything down because I'll do it all for you. But in the meantime, here are your questions to help with your next step. So you're ready to do another piece of content. What's it going to be? So number 1, what is one business goal you have right now that content may help you achieve? Number 2, what does your audience need to know or do to help you achieve this goal? Number 3, what type of content can do this job best? Think about those questions the next time you're doing some content and see if it helps you be a little more intentional on what you are creating. My goal, you guys, is to make doing all the content stuff easier. I know what I talked about feels like it might make it harder. And yes, it's work. It's not going to be just winging it like you're doing it now. But if you're going to be spending the time and energy, and like we all know, you create a reel and it takes way longer than you thought it would. Content takes time. And I want the time and energy and sometimes money that you're spending on this content to be well worth it. You're going to be creating it anyway. You might as well be more intentional and more specific so that it actually does something and makes a difference, because this could be your core content that then you keep repeating over time. You're not repeating the happy cupcake day. I mean, you could, but it's not doing anything for you. So let's step it up. And even though it's work, let's create a system that makes it feel a little easier. And if this free content was helpful for you, would you mind sharing it in your stories or with some other business friends? Or better yet, set up a call and let's work on your content together. If you've been considering working together or we haven't done so in a while, now is a good time to be impactful with your time and energy in your business. And stop wondering how you're going to get it all done. Let me help you. I look forward to seeing you on my calendar. Until then, go get back to work.